The alien rescue ship Zerath-9 hovered over the battlefield that had once been full of life. Now there was only smoke, broken metal, and silence. The red sky burned with the reflection of destroyed ships. The ground was full of ashes and twisted remains of machines. It was supposed to be a peaceful research zone, but war had turned it into a graveyard. Inside the ship, Dr. Zahler, an alien medic with pale blue skin and silver eyes, scanned the area. Her crew was silent. Their scanner showed no signs of life, no pulse, no breath, no movement. Yet, just as she was about to turn away, the screen blinked. A weak heartbeat, human. Her eyes widened. "Wait, a human?" she whispered. The crew stared at her. "That's impossible," one of them said. "Humans don't survive this kind of destruction." Ignoring their doubts, Zahler ordered lock coordinates. "Bring him in, now." Moments later, drones flew out scanning the ruins. They moved aside heavy wreckage until one of them stopped. There, lying half-buried under steel and dirt, was a man. His uniform was torn, his body covered in burns, but his chest still moved. Slow, steady. One hand was clutching a broken dog tag. The rescuers lifted him gently onto a floating stretcher. His face was scarred, his eyes closed, but his expression was calm, almost peaceful. As they brought him aboard, the crew looked at him with shock and discomfort. To them, humans were strange creatures, primitive, emotional, too fragile for real wars. But this one was still breathing after what no alien soldier could survive. Dr. Zahler bent close, scanning him. Multiple fractures. Internal bleeding. "His organs are collapsing," she said softly. Then her scanner blinked again. "But his brain activity? It's stable," the crew whispered among themselves. "He should be dead," Zahler frowned. "He isn't." They rushed him to the medical bay. Machines surrounded the bed, lights flashing as alien medics worked quickly. His body was broken, but somehow his heart refused to stop. Zahler began emergency regeneration, using every advanced healing tech her species had. Hours passed. Every time the monitor beeped slower, they thought it was over, but then his pulse would rise again. At last, Zahler leaned back, exhausted. "He's fighting," she murmured. "Even in sleep, he's fighting." The other medics exchanged uneasy glances. "Doctor, why would anyone fight this hard?" "He has nothing left to live for." Zahler didn't answer. She watched the human's chest rise and fall. The machine readouts showed pain levels that would drive any alien insane. Yet his brain remained calm, almost focused. Suddenly, the human's eyes snapped open. Everyone froze. His gaze darted around the room, confusion in his expression. His voice was hoarse but clear. Where's my team?" he asked. Zahler blinked in disbelief. "You need rest. You're safe now." He ignored her words and tried to sit up, pain shooting through every muscle. His breathing turned sharp, but he didn't stop. "Tell me they made it," he whispered. Zahler gently pushed him back. "You're the only one we found." His eyes closed slowly. A single tear escaped down his cheek. The heart monitor beeped faster for a moment, then steadied again. He took a deep breath and whispered, "Then I'll live. For them." Then he passed out again. The room fell silent. Even the machine seemed quieter. Zahler stood still, feeling something she hadn't felt in years, a kind of respect. Later, when the commander of the rescue team came to check on her report, Zahler spoke without looking up from her datapad.
"He's human," she said.
"And he shouldn't be alive." The commander frowned. "Then why is he?" Zahler looked through the glass window at the man lying in the bed, his chest rising and falling slowly under the pale light. "I don't know," she whispered. "But I think we're about to find out what humans are truly made of." The commander gave a small nod, but the unease in his eyes was clear. "Keep him under observation. If he wakes up again, report immediately." When he left, Zahler stayed alone in the dim room watching the strange human. Machines hummed softly, shadows moving across his face. For a long time, she said nothing. Finally, she whispered to herself, "You shouldn't be alive, yet somehow you are." Outside the window, the wreckage of war still burned in the distance. Inside the ship, one broken human continued to breathe, slowly, stubbornly, impossibly, and somewhere deep inside that fragile frame, a fire still burned, a fire that no alien could understand. That night, the aliens of Zerath-9 realized something that shook them deeply. Humans don't just survive, they refuse to die. Inside the medical bay of Zerath-9, Soft blue lights glowed above a single bed. Machines hummed quietly around the unconscious human. His body was wrapped in healing gel and reinforced with alien biotech patches. Each monitor showed something impossible. His cells were repairing themselves faster than expected. Dr. Zahler stared at the data screen, her silver eyes narrowing. She had treated soldiers from 100 different worlds, warriors with titanium bones, creatures that could live in lava, even species that could regenerate lost limbs. But this human, he broke every rule of biology she knew. She muttered to herself. No heartbeat should stay this strong under such damage. His organs were crushed, yet he heals like he's refusing death. Her assistant, Craven, tilted his head. Maybe the scanners are malfunctioning. Zahler gave him a cold glance. No, the machines are fine. It's him that's not normal. Craven hesitated, watching the human's chest rise and fall. He's terrifying. His body screams pain, but his brain waves look peaceful. Zahler folded her arms. Peaceful? Or focused? Humans feel pain differently. They don't surrender to it, they challenge it. Hours later, the human stirred again. The sensors beeped faster. His eyes opened slowly, pale but alive. Zahler approached carefully. Can you hear me? She asked. He blinked, then nodded faintly. Yeah, still here. His voice was rough, cracked, but there was a small smirk on his face. Guess I'm harder to kill than you thought. Zahler frowned. You shouldn't even be conscious. You lost half your blood volume, he gave a weak chuckle. Half? Then I still have enough to keep going. Craven stepped back, whispering to Zahler. He jokes while dying. Is this madness? The doctor ignored him. Rest, she said firmly. Your body can't take more stress, but the human shook his head. I've been through worse. His words echoed in her mind. I've been through worse. It didn't sound like pride. It sounded like truth. Cold, heavy truth. When he drifted back to sleep, Zahler scanned him again. The readings confused her even more. The human's neural pathways were firing as if his mind was training itself, adapting to pain, rewriting signals, controlling suffering. She whispered to herself, he doesn't heal like us. He fights every cell that gives up. Later that day, she sent her report to the alien commander. Subject remains alive. Recovery progress exceeds all medical predictions. I recommend extended observation. The commander's reply came fast. Do not let this human out of containment. He is dangerous, physically or psychologically. We do not yet know which. Zahler didn't respond immediately. Instead, she sat by the human's bed. He looked peaceful again, his breathing steady. But his body told another story. Burns, deep scars, and old wounds that spoke of many battles before this one. She couldn't stop wondering, what kind of world created such a being? That night, while the ship floated quietly through orbit, Zahler replayed the battle recordings. She found fragments from a drone's camera, humans fighting until the last breath, pulling each other from fire, shouting through pain. None of them ran. None begged for help. They simply kept moving forward. The next morning, when the human woke up again, he found Zahler watching him closely. Why are you still studying me? He asked softly. Because I don't understand you, she replied. You should be dead. Yet you live. You laugh. You fight your own pain like it's your enemy. The man stared at the ceiling for a moment. Then he said, you wouldn't understand. Where I come from, pain is just part of being alive. You don't run from it, you learn to walk through it. His words stayed with her long after he closed his eyes again. For the first time in her medical career, Zahler felt something strange. Doubt. Doubt in her science, doubt in her understanding of life itself. When she looked at the human's vitals once more, she whispered, what are you really human? Flesh and blood? Or something else entirely? The monitors answered with their steady rhythm. Beep, beep, beep. It was the sound of something she couldn't explain, something that refused to die. And deep inside, Zahler began to realize, maybe the galaxy had underestimated humans for far too long. The hum of the medical bay filled the silent corridors of Zerath 9. Blue lights pulsed gently across the walls as Dr. Zahler checked the readings once more. The human was stable, too stable. Every hour his vitals grew stronger, his heartbeat firmer. It was unnatural. Even the machine seemed confused, as if they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Zahler sighed and turned to her datapad. She had spent nights studying his recovery logs, but the data didn't make sense. His immune system was rebuilding itself faster than any recorded species. Every molecule in his blood was fighting to stay alive. She couldn't decide if this was evolution or defiance. As she walked past his bed, a flicker of movement made her stop. His fingers twitched. His eyes opened, staring straight ahead. Zalar moved closer. "You're awake again," she said softly. The man blinked slowly, his gaze distant. "Yeah, I guess I am." There was silence for a few seconds. Then he whispered, "Where am I?" "You're aboard the alien vessel Zirath 9. You were found on a destroyed battlefield. We brought you here." His brow furrowed. "The battlefield." His voice trailed off and his expression darkened. "It wasn't supposed to happen that way." Zalar pulled up a chair. "What do you remember?" At first he said nothing. His eyes stared past her as if watching something far away. Then slowly he began to speak. "It was fire everywhere," he murmured. "We were ordered to hold the line. My squad was surrounded. The sky burned red with plasma fire. They told us help was coming, but it never did." Zalar watched his pulse spike on the monitor. "You don't have to continue." He shook his head. "I need to." His voice trembled, but he kept going. "We fought until the ammo ran dry. We used what we had, metal scraps, shrapnel, even our bare hands. My commander was hit. My best friend tried to drag him out, but..." His jaw clenched. He didn't make it. Zalar's throat tightened. She could almost feel the pain in his words. "Then they came," he continued. "The attackers weren't soldiers. They were your kind." Her eyes widened. "Mine?" He nodded. "Same species, maybe a different faction. They bombed everything that moved. I thought I was done for. Then, I remember seeing a flash. Next thing I knew, I woke up here." The room grew heavy with silence. Zalar didn't know what to say. It was true that many alien factions had fought humans in secret wars before, but hearing it from his mouth made it real. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. The human looked at her, tired but calm. "You're not them. I can tell." Zalar blinked. "How?" He smiled faintly. "They aim to destroy. You're trying to heal. That's how I know." For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the slow beep of the monitor. Then Zalar said, "Your body, it's recovering faster than I've ever seen. Do you know how?" He laughed softly, though pain still laced his voice. "Humans are stubborn. Pain doesn't stop us. It reminds us we're alive." Zalar tilted her head. "You find meaning in pain?" He looked away, staring at the ceiling. "When you've lost everything, pain becomes your only teacher. You can break from it, or build from it. I chose to build." His words stayed in her mind long after he drifted back into sleep. She stood there watching the monitor pulse in steady rhythm. His face, though scarred, looked peaceful now. Later, when she wrote her medical report, her hands hesitated before typing the final note. Subject exhibits extreme physical and psychological resilience. Human body reacts to trauma with adaptive aggression, not surrender. This may be the reason for their survival across hostile worlds. That night, Zalar replayed the recording from the battlefield drone. She watched as humans fought under burning skies, bleeding, crawling, refusing to fall. One man, half his armor destroyed, still dragged his wounded comrade toward safety. Another kept firing even as his arm shook violently. It was madness. And yet, there was something noble in it. Something alien species had forgotten long ago, the will to keep going, no matter the cost. When she looked back at the human resting in the medical bed, she whispered, "You lost everything, yet still you rise. Maybe that's what makes your kind dangerous and beautiful." A small beep drew her attention. The human's vitals spiked again, but this time not from pain. His brain waves lit up. He was dreaming. Zalar leaned closer to the monitor. The dream patterns looked unusual, full of violent flashes and emotional surges. She saw pain, fire, but also faces, his friends, his fallen comrades. Even in dreams, he refused to forget them. She realized then that the human's strength wasn't just in his body. It was in his memory. He carried his pain like armor, his grief like a promise. And for the first time in her long medical career, Zellar felt something strange in her chest. Not fear, not confusion, admiration. The next cycle aboard Zerath 9 began with tension in the air. Every crew member had heard of the human survivor, the one who refused to die. Some whispered in awe, others in fear. The alien commander, Recoil, was both intrigued and unsettled. He wanted to see for himself what kind of creature could survive such pain and still speak with calm eyes. Dr. Zellar stood beside the human's bed as he slowly sat up. His body was still covered with medical patches, but his movements were steadier now. He swung his legs over the edge and said quietly, "If I can stand, I can walk." Zellar frowned. "You are not fully healed. Your muscles need time." The human smiled faintly. "Muscles remember faster than pain does." Recoil entered the bay with his guards. His tall armored frame towered over the human. "Human," he said in a low voice, "our scans show your body still suffers, yet you recover beyond logic. I want to understand how." The human met his gaze without fear. "Understanding it won't make it easier." "That's why we want to test you," the commander said. "A mental endurance trial. You will undergo simulations that measure your pain tolerance and focus." Zellar turned sharply. "Commander, he's not ready." Recoil replied, "He says he can walk. Let's see how far he can go." The human shrugged. "Fine. Let's see what you call pain." Hours later, they brought him into the neurosim chamber, a circular room surrounded by floating holospheres. The walls pulsed with blue energy, ready to project illusionary environments directly into his mind. The alien crew watched from behind reinforced glass as Zellar adjusted the controls. "Are you sure?" she asked softly. He nodded. "Just start it." With a hum, the simulation began. At once he found himself standing in a burning field. The sky was red, his battlefield again. Explosions echoed, smoke burned his lungs. The pain receptors in his body flared to life, amplifying everything. He fell to one knee, clutching his chest. Outside, Zellar's hands shook over the control panel. "Commander, his levels are spiking. This could kill him." But Recoil said calmly, "He asked for it." Inside, the human forced his trembling hands to steady. The fire around him wasn't real, but the pain was. Every nerve screamed. He saw faces, his squad, his friends, their last stand. He could almost hear them calling his name. His vision blurred, but he whispered to himself, "It's not the pain that breaks you. It's forgetting why you endure it." Slowly, he stood again. The simulation shifted. The field turned into freezing wasteland. Ice crawled over his skin, cutting deep. His breathing slowed, frost coating his face. Still, he moved forward. Outside, Zellar's voice cracked. "Commander, look at him. No one can endure that. Shut it down." But Recoil's eyes were wide. "No. Watch. He's adapting." They all stared. The human's vitals stabilized. His pain readings dropped even as the simulation intensified. He had found calm in chaos. Inside the illusion, the human closed his eyes. His voice was calm now. "You can break my bones, freeze my blood, burn my skin, but you'll never touch my will." Zellar's breath caught. She whispered, "He's rewriting his own pain response. Consciously." After an hour, the simulation shut down automatically. The human stood alone in silence, sweat dripping down his face, chest heaving, but alive. When the chamber doors opened, he walked out slowly. His legs shook, but his eyes were steady. Recoil stepped forward, silent for a long moment. Finally, the commander said, "No creature in the galaxy has ever lasted more than 10 minutes in that test. You lasted 1 hour." The human smirked tiredly. "Guess your simulator never met a human before." Recoil gave a rare nod of respect. Now I see why your kind scares the galaxy. Zayler moved closer, scanning him. His pulse was elevated but strong. You should be unconscious. Your nervous system should have collapsed. He looked at her gently. Pain's just a message. I stopped listening. Her voice was quiet. You didn't fight it. You accepted it. He nodded. Exactly. Once you stop fearing pain, it loses control over you. For a long moment, Zayler just stared. She realized then that no medicine, no technology, no evolution could match the human's strength. His power came from his mind, from something invisible, something every human carried deep inside. When he returned to the medical bay, the crew bowed their heads slightly as he passed, not from fear, but respect. Later, as Zayler wrote her report, she paused before the last line. She whispered the words aloud as she typed them. The human body is strong, but the human mind is infinite. And far across the galaxy, on countless alien worlds, rumors began to spread of the broken man who entered the fire and came out unshaken. The silence of Zerath 9 was broken by a scream of alarms. Red warning lights flashed through every corridor as the ship trembled. The intercom crackled. Unidentified fleet approaching, all personnel to battle stations. Dr. Zaylar froze in the med bay. Her first thought wasn't for herself. It was for the human. He had just started walking without support 2 days ago, but the look in his eyes when the alarm sounded told her everything. He was already moving. Wait, she called. You can't fight, you're still recovering. The human turned to her, fastening the half-broken armor plate that once belonged to one of their soldiers. Doesn't matter. If I can breathe, I can stand. If I can stand, I can fight. Before she could stop him, he was gone. The corridors shook as explosions rocked the outer hull. The alien crew scrambled to their stations, confusion spreading like fire. The attacking fleet bore no insignia, mercenaries, pirates, or worse. Zaylar rushed to the command deck. Through the view screen, she saw a storm of enemy ships closing in, their weapons blazing blue fire. Commander Recoil barked orders. Raise shields, redirect power from the engines, focus defense on the east hangar. Zaylar's voice trembled. Commander, the human, he's out there. Recoil's eyes narrowed. Let him be. If he's as strong as you claim, he'll survive. But deep inside, even the commander wasn't sure. In the lower decks, the human moved with purpose. He passed soldiers preparing for combat, aliens who stared at him in disbelief. His body was covered in scars, but his steps were steady. A young alien officer blocked his way. You're not authorized to. The human simply said, you want to live? Then follow me. Something in his voice, calm, steady, commanding, made them obey. Within minutes, he had gathered a small team. He pointed toward the east hangar. That's where they'll hit first. We hold them there. The aliens exchanged nervous glances, but followed. The human grabbed a fallen plasma rifle, checked the charge, and muttered, Feels like old times. The first explosion shattered the hangar doors. Fire and smoke poured in as enemy troops stormed the deck. The aliens panicked, firing wildly. The human dropped to one knee, calm amid the chaos. Hold your aim, he shouted. Breathe. Fire on my mark. They listened. When he shouted, now, their shots were precise, cutting down the first wave. The alien soldiers stared in shock. His commands worked. A massive alien brute charged toward them, claws like blades. The human met it head-on, sliding under its swing, and fired straight into its chest. The blast threw sparks everywhere. He didn't stop moving, grabbing another rifle, covering 2 fallen soldiers and dragging them behind cover. Even wounded, he moved like a storm. From the command deck, Recoil watched through the surveillance feed. His jaw tightened. He's directing my troops like a veteran general, Zaylar whispered. He's not leading for power. He's leading to protect. On screen, they saw the human slam a damaged door shut with his shoulder, then weld it using the barrel of his overheated gun. His armor was scorched, blood dripping from his arm, but he kept going. The alien soldiers began shouting a chant in his honor, a chant no alien had used for an outsider before. Unbroken, unbroken. The sound carried through the ship like thunder. Hours felt like minutes. The attackers finally retreated after losing half their fleet. The alien defenses, guided by the humans' reckless courage, had held the line. When silence returned, Zaylar rushed to the hangar. Smoke filled the air. Broken machines lay everywhere, and there among the ruins stood the human, leaning against a wall, bloodied but smiling faintly. "You're insane," Zaylar said breathlessly. "Maybe," he replied with a weak grin. But it worked. She knelt beside him, scanning his vitals. "Your heart rate, your body can't take this anymore." He chuckled softly. "My body can complain all it wants. It still has a job to do." The commander arrived moments later. The other soldiers stood at attention, saluting the human. Recoil looked at him with respect. "You disobeyed orders," he said. The human straightened, even with pain in his eyes. "Yeah, but you're still alive." Recoil was silent for a long moment before nodding, and because of that, so is everyone else. Later, in the medbay, Zaylar watched him sleep. His arm was in a regeneration cast, but his expression was peaceful. She spoke quietly into her recorder. "The human strength is not born of muscle or bone, but from purpose. He fights not for victory, but for life itself." Outside the window, the stars glimmered, cold and endless. Inside the ship, one fragile creature, broken, scarred, and unstoppable, had done the impossible again. And across the corridors of Zerath 9, whispers spread like wildfire. Only a human could recover from such trauma, and still choose to fight. The lights of Zerath 9 flickered after the battle, casting long shadows across the wounded ship. Smoke still drifted through the corridors, and the faint smell of burned metal hung in the air. Med drones floated between injured soldiers, scanning and healing as fast as they could. Dr. Zaylar hurried through the chaos, clutching her medical scanner. Every corridor she passed looked worse than the last. Bent panels, cracked floors, and wounded soldiers lying in rows. But her heart raced for only one reason: the human. When she reached the hangar, she froze. The once proud warrior now lay motionless on the cold floor. His armor shattered, his chest still. Blood covered his hands. Around him, alien soldiers stood in silence, their faces pale with shock. One whispered, "He saved us all, and now he's gone." Zaylar dropped beside him. "No!" Her trembling hands scanned his body. The reading was clear, no heartbeat. His body temperature was falling fast. She pressed on his chest hard again and again. "Don't you dare stop now!" she shouted. The commander, Recoil, stepped closer, his deep voice low. "Doctor, it's over. Even you cannot—" "Shut up!" she snapped. Her eyes burned. "He didn't give up on any of us. I won't give up on him." For minutes that felt like hours, she worked. Compressions, electrical surges, neural stimulants. The monitors stayed flat, no pulse, no sound. Then just as the med drones began to shut down the equipment, the heart monitor beeped once, then again, and again. Beep, beep, beep. The aliens around her gasped. Zaylar froze, eyes wide. No, that's impossible." The human's fingers twitched. His chest rose weakly. A shaky breath escaped his lips. He was alive. The room erupted in disbelief. One medic dropped his tools. Another muttered, "No creature could come back after that." Zaylar leaned close, whispering, "You stubborn fool." His eyelids fluttered open. His voice was faint but calm. "Told you, it takes more than death to stop me." Recoil stared at him like he was seeing a ghost. "You were dead, human." For 5 whole minutes, the human gave a weak smirk. Guess death got tired of waiting. The commander's second-in-command whispered, This isn't natural." Zaylar stood slowly, her expression unreadable. "No, it's not natural. It's human." Hours later, the medical bay glowed with soft blue light. The human rested, connected to a dozen monitors. His vitals were stabilizing faster than anyone believed possible. Zaylar's report glowed on her screen, but her mind couldn't comprehend it. Subject declared clinically dead for 5 minutes. Heart restarted without external command. Cellular repair accelerated after revival. Unknown mechanism. Her assistant, Craven, read the report and whispered, "He died and came back." What kind of creature does that? Zaylar answered quietly, "One that refuses to let go." She looked at the human again. Even in sleep, his expression carried peace. Not pride, not fear, just calm. When he finally woke, it was deep into the next cycle. Zaylar sat beside his bed, exhausted. He blinked, eyes adjusting to the light. "How long was I out?" he asked weakly. "Long enough to scare the entire ship. She replied. You were gone. He turned his head slowly toward her. Gone? She nodded. No pulse, no breath. We thought... She stopped. But you came back, he smiled faintly. Guess my body didn't get the memo. Zayler couldn't help but laugh softly. You joke about dying. You really are impossible. His gaze turned serious. If I stop laughing, I start remembering. Zayler understood. He didn't fight death just to live. He fought to keep hope alive. Later that day, the Alien High Council called a meeting aboard Zerath 9. The commander presented Zaylar's findings to them. The room was filled with disbelief. One elder said, You claim this creature returned from death impossible. Zayler stood tall. I saw it. We all did. Another elder asked, What explanation do you have? She replied simply, None that makes sense to us. But it makes sense to him. At that moment, the human entered the chamber, walking slowly but upright. The aliens fell silent. His skin was pale, his movements tired, but his presence filled the room. He looked at the council and said quietly, I'm not special. Every human would do the same. We fall, we break, we bleed, but we always get back up. One elder whispered, Even after death? He smiled softly, Especially after death. That night, in the quiet of the med bay, Zaylar recorded her final note for the report. Her voice trembled with emotion. For the first time in my life, I have witnessed what no science can explain. A human died and returned, not because of technology, but because his will refused to stop. The universe may never understand this miracle, but I do. Humanity does not survive by strength alone. They survive because they choose to. She looked through the glass window at him, sitting upright, gazing at the stars beyond. His eyes reflected the endless cosmos, alive once more. And for the first time in alien history, the word miracle had a new definition. It was human. The stars outside Zerath 9 shimmered like silver dust scattered across the black sea of space. The ship was quiet now. Repairs were almost complete, and the survivors of the recent battle were healing. Yet something deeper had changed, something no scanner or data log could record. Every alien aboard the ship spoke of one name, one story, the unbroken human. In the days following his impossible revival, the ship's halls had transformed. Wherever the human walked, silence followed. Soldiers bowed their heads slightly, engineers paused their work, and medics whispered words of respect. They had seen him die and then rise again. That image had burned itself into their minds forever. Dr. Zayler watched him from across the observation deck. He stood near the giant viewing window, his body still wrapped in healing patches, his face lit by starlight. He looked fragile yet unshakably strong, a living paradox. You should be resting, she said softly, stepping closer. He turned his head slightly, smiling. I've had enough rest for a lifetime. Zayler crossed her arms, studying him. You do realize that half the galaxy now knows your name? He raised an eyebrow. Oh? Didn't realize I was famous. Not famous, she replied. Legendary. The alien networks are calling you the one who defied death. Some even think you're a god. He chuckled quietly. I'm no god, Doctor. Just stubborn. A soft hum echoed through the ship as the commander, Recoil, entered. His usually stern expression was lighter today. Human, he said. The council has sent a message. They want to speak with you, council? The human asked, turning around. I thought they wanted to study me. Recoil nodded. They did. Until your story spread. Now they want to learn from you. Zayler exchanged a glance with the commander. Even she couldn't believe it. The same council that once viewed humans as primitive now sought wisdom from one. Moments later, in the council chamber, holographic images of alien leaders shimmered around the room. The human stood calmly at the center. His presence alone commanded attention. One counselor spoke first, his voice deep and echoing. We have seen your recordings. You faced death and returned. You fought for those not of your kind. Tell us, human, what drives you? The man's eyes softened. It's simple, he said. We fight for each other. Pain, fear, loss, they don't stop us. They remind us what matters. Humans. We don't survive because we're strong. We survive because we refuse to give up. The room was silent. Even the holograms seemed to pause. Another elder asked, But why risk your life for those who once harmed you? He looked toward Zayler and then back at them. Because forgiveness takes more strength than hatred. You call it weakness. I call it courage. Zayler felt something shift in that moment, a ripple through the chamber. The counselors exchanged looks of respect. When the meeting ended, Ravkor approached him quietly. "You've changed them, human. I didn't think it was possible." The human smiled faintly. "I didn't come to change anyone. I just refused to stay broken." Weeks passed. The human's body healed, leaving behind only faint scars. But his story had already left its mark on countless worlds. Alien soldiers began training using his methods: mental endurance, emotional control, resilience. They called it the human way. On distant planets, children listened to stories of the human who rose from death to save his enemies. Statues were built, not of marble or metal, but of light. His likeness standing tall, holding no weapon, only a symbol of unity. Dr. Zalar received thousands of messages from across the galaxy. Some were from medics asking for her reports, others from leaders wanting to understand the secret of human endurance. But there was no formula, no data, only one truth. Pain does not define humanity. The way they rise from it does. One quiet night, Zalar found the human sitting in the observation deck again, staring at the glowing horizon of a nearby nebula. She sat beside him. "They're calling your story a miracle," she said softly. He didn't look away from the stars. "Miracle's just another word for something we don't understand yet," she smiled. "You've changed us, you know. We used to see humans as unpredictable, dangerous. Now we see hope." He looked at her, his voice low but warm. "Hope's a dangerous thing too, Doctor. But it's the only thing worth fighting for." They sat in silence for a long time, the vastness of the galaxy stretching endlessly before them. Finally, Zalar spoke again. "What will you do now?" He stood watching the stars. "Go home if there's still a home left. And if not..." He smiled softly. "I'll build one." As he walked away, Zalar whispered to herself, "The unbroken human." Her words faded into the hum of the ship. Outside, the stars shimmered brighter, as if honoring the man who had defied death, conquered pain, and taught an entire galaxy what it truly meant to be alive. That night, every alien aboard Zerath 9 dreamed of fire, courage, and a lone human standing tall against the impossible, not as a god, not as a soldier, but as a reminder that no matter how deep the darkness, humanity always rises.